You strive for the perfect body, perfect resume, perfect home, perfect partner, perfect parent, perfect post, perfect lighting, perfect life. And you've been told excellence is the standard, good is not good enough. Your best expected every single time, so you edit until the soul drains out, and rehearse until the truth evaporates, and curate until you can't recognize yourself. And here's the paradox that will crack the pedestal beneath your feet. Perfectionism does not make you better, it makes you smaller. It doesn't produce excellence, it produces fear and procrastination and paralysis, because the highest achievers are not perfectionists. They are people who ship imperfect work and learn from the rubble and keep moving, while perfectionists never start or never finish or finish and feel hollow, because nothing is ever perfect enough, and the data is brutal, a massive analysis of over 40,000 people finding perfectionism tightly correlated with depression and anxiety and eating disorders and thoughts of ending it all, not a driver of success, but a driver of misery. Perfectionists earning no more and achieving no more than their peers, just suffering more. And the neuroscience is a feedback loop of hell. Your brain's error detection system hyperactive, flooding you with wrong, 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 at flaws that don't even exist. So you try to correct, but the corrections never stop because the standard is impossible, leaving you feeling like a failure every waking moment. And that feeling kills motivation, so you procrastinate or abandon or hide, while the non-perfectionist ships their B-plus work and learns from feedback and improves and ships again. The perfectionist still staring at a blank page, waiting for inspiration to strike perfectly. And the American twist is we've confused perfectionism with excellence, praising the grind and the relentless pursuit and the never settle mantra, but settling isn't the enemy, perfectionism is, because excellence is achievable, excellence is very good and good enough for now. Excellence ships, perfectionism never ships, and a culture that worships flawlessness produces people terrified to try, terrified to fail, terrified to be seen as anything less than polished. Which isn't excellence, it's anxiety wearing a trophy. Now the quiet reversal that only lands when you stop polishing long enough to feel the relief of a crack. The most successful and creative and impactful Americans are not perfectionists. They are satisficers, aiming for good enough and then stopping, understanding that done is better than perfect, that a finished imperfect thing is worth infinitely more than an unfinished perfect thing, that the messiness of reality is where beauty actually lives. The greatest novels have typos, the greatest songs miss notes, the greatest speeches stumbles, the greatest lives failures and embarrassments, and undone tasks, and that's not failure, that's humanity, and the people who escape the trap learn to be strategically sloppy, setting a standard of good enough and meeting it and stopping, using timers to force completion, sharing work before it's ready, asking for feedback when they're terrified of the answer, and discovering the world doesn't demand perfection, the world demands presence and effort and the courage to be seen trying. So let me tell you about Paul, a perfectionist writer who spent 6 years on a novel, rewriting the first chapter 47 times and never finishing, and a therapist asked what would happen if you wrote a terrible novel on purpose. And Paul was horrified but tried, set a 30-day timer and wrote a bad novel full of typos and cliches and plot holes, finished it, and felt more alive than he had in a decade, sent it to a friend who laughed and said, "This is terrible, but I can see what you're going for. Keep going." And Paul rewrote it. Not perfectly, but better. Published it, sold modestly, and broke the spell. Realizing his perfectionism hadn't been protecting his reputation, it had been protecting his ego from the risk of being seen, and being seen even imperfectly was the only way to actually live, and the American cognitive paradox is right here. We worship the flawless, but the flawless do not exist. The only real things are the flawed and the messy and the unfinished. The only escape is to learn to love your own cracks, understanding that a vase broken and repaired with gold is more beautiful than a flawless one. Kintsugi, life. And right now your brain might want to defend your high standards, but ask yourself how many projects you've abandoned because they weren't good enough. How many opportunities missed because you weren't ready? How many hours lost on trivial details no one else would ever see? And if those numbers hurt, your perfectionism isn't helping. It's holding you hostage. So if the impulse just sparked to send this to someone who apologizes for things no one noticed, that's not about me. It's the recognition that their flaw-finding isn't a gift but a curse, and the first real release you've given yourself in years might be shipping something imperfect today. And the question from the beginning, why does perfectionism destroy the excellence it claims to serve, has an answer that a second viewing fully reveals. Perfection is not excellence. Excellence is alive. Perfection is a statue, and statues cannot dance. Now go do something badly on purpose. That's an order.